Everybody's quiet, so I guess we're ready to start, right? All right. So we'll get started. Commissioners, as you will recall, in the past years, we have had members of the Leadership Development Program in attendance to observe the board meeting process. Over the next few months, we will have participants from this year's class in attendance. I would like to welcome this month's participants. We are so happy to have you. I would now invite each of you to please stand and introduce yourselves. No pressure.
I'm Drew Keller. I work in water systems engineering, and I've been here around 10 years now.
Good afternoon. I'm Bryson Kidd. I work in the meters department. I supervise the field service technicians. I've been here 5 years.
Well, we welcome you. Very good. So, Mr. Coley, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Feinbaum.
Present.
Commissioner Gibson.
Present.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Here.
Commissioner Herbert.
Here.
Commissioner Pickett.
Here.
Commissioner Simpson-Brown.
I am here.
All are in attendance, Madam Chair.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I believe we all had an opportunity to review last month's minutes. May I have a motion to approve and a second?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Now I'd like to recognize Gabe. We need to, I'm sorry.
Shall I
All in
call roll?
favor,
Oh,
say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
done. Thank you.
It works. Now I'd like to recognize Gabe.
Yes. Commissioners, I want to recognize Mark Walker, Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, for a resolution for your consideration in changing the procurement procedures. Mark.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today we do present for your consideration Resolution 1497, which does amend the KUB procurement procedures. And just to let you know that we did discuss these proposed changes with the Board's Audit and Finance Committee at their October meeting. And today we're bringing them for full Board consideration and hopefully adoption. I wanted to go over the governance structure of our procurement activities, because that will lead in to what the proposed changes are. So first of all, the procurement procedures themselves, they were adopted by the board back in 2002, and they really serve as the master governance document for the purchase of goods and services by KUB. State law has a lot to say about municipal purchasing, so the procedures are consistent and do reflect the purchasing requirements that are set forth in state law. And within the procedures, there are some very specific delegations of authority to the President and CEO and his or her designee regarding various procurement activities. The key word there is it's very specific on that. So one of the authorizations is to establish procurement guidelines. And procurement guidelines have a lot of delegations from Gabe, or from the President and CEO to the procurement manager, and just really for the day-to-day operations of procurement. So you have procedures, you have guidelines. But the procedures do state, and the board-approved procedures state, that the authority in the guidelines can't exceed the authority the board has granted in the procurement procedures, which makes sense. But that brings us here today because we have found an instance within the guidelines in which authority has been delegated by the President and CEO regarding the resolution of contracts and resolving protests related to contracts and breach of contract disputes. That is delegated to the procurement manager, but nowhere in the procedures is it mentioned. So that brings us here today. We want to shore that up and fix that. So the proposed changes are to expand the scope of authority granted to the President and CEO to be able to resolve protests related to a contract and contract disputes. So that would make it in sync with the procurement guidelines. And then second, probably what we should have done back in 2002 is to have a general delegation of authority from the board to the president and CEO to implement the procedures and really to manage all aspects of procurement activities for KUB. If we'd done that back in 2002, we're not having this conversation today. And that's where I got back to saying the delegations in the procedures are very specific. And so those will remain, but we also want to have this sort of catch-all or general delegation of authority as well. And that is really the extent of what we're amending the procurement procedures for. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
No questions? Okay. So we would need a motion and a second first and final reading for Resolution 1497.
Move to approve.
Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board on this particular resolution? Seeing none, Mr. Coley, will you please call the roll for the vote on Resolution 1497 on first and final reading?
Commissioner Caballero. Commissioner Feinbaum.
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson. Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Herbert.
Aye.
Commissioner Pickett. Commissioner Simpson Brown.
Aye.
Resolution 1497 has passed on first and final reading.
Thank you all. Commissioners, I also want to recognize Aaron Gill, our Vice President of Sustainability and Government Relations, to give you to present a resolution for your consideration on a purchase power agreement under our flexibility agreement with TVA. So, Aaron, thank you.
Good to talk to you again. The next step of our flexibility strategy, which we have chatted about, and we are moving forward. So, as just a recap, you have seen this slide before. This is the outline of the different projects that we have targeted under our generation flexibility, our 5% from TVA. What we're talking about today has been this red box, what we're calling an LPC aggregated project. So again, this is a project not on our system, it's elsewhere in the valley, and this particular one has to be a partnership with another LPC. I'll note on this slide, we did present very similar materials as a whole, but what you've seen before on our flexibility strategy to our community advisory panel in October. And their input that we received in that meeting has helped us refine how we communicate about these projects, and has also helped us incorporate some of their input into how we think about some future opportunities, ones where we might be exploring new types of projects to use our additional balance available. So I'll note that feedback and interaction, but moving again through slides that you have seen before, this is the breakdown of our proposed use of our available capacity and the associated savings. And again, pointing you toward that light blue, which is the project that we're going to be reviewing today for contract approval. Because this is the first PPA that we are going to sign, I'm going to spend a little bit of time walking you through the contract structure that we're talking about for this type of project. And when you hear me use the term PPA, what that's describing is a power purchase agreement. And that is a relationship with a developer where they provide turnkey services to us. So these are not systems that we are going to own as KUB assets. They're going to be developed by another party. And that's the agreement that we establish that relationship and work with them under. So what's interesting about this particular arrangement is that because it is located outside of our KUB footprint, it requires really a two-step contract relationship. And that's what I'll walk you through here. The first is that power purchase agreement with the developer, where we will have a turnkey development agreement where they build the system for us, they own the system, they manage that system, maintain that system, and we in turn provide a payment to them for each megawatt hour of electricity that that system produces on our behalf. So that is somewhat similar to some of the things you've seen before, Green Invest, for example, but this one really is about the energy and all of that environmental attributes, the good stuff that comes with the solar energy. The next key piece of this relationship is what we call the flexibility option PPA, or FAPA, if you hear me use that term. And that is a pretty critical part of making all this work. That is the agreement that we signed with TVA, wherein this power that is produced elsewhere in the valley goes onto the TVA grid. Under the PPA, we're paying that power for the developer, and we in turn have to get some money back from TVA to make us whole. And the FAPA is what establishes that. So under the FAPA, TVA commits to pay us a prescribed amount that is reflective of a kind of baseline rate, which then also adds our total monthly fuel cost that we would otherwise be avoiding if we were doing this on our system. So again, you want these two agreements to match, because the obligations that TVA expects of us are the obligations we then expect of our developer. So in a different world, this might be a tripartite agreement. TVA world, it's two agreements. They largely share a lot of the same terms. And again, they both have to be signed concurrently, because without one, you don't have the savings. Commissioner Herbert?
Aaron, how does, I assume that the developer of this project is selling power to entities other than KUB. Would that be correct?
In this particular arrangement, there will be another party, yes.
How do they keep track of what it is they're generating for us versus somebody else?
Yeah, what we'll do is I'll go to the next slide, and that might help. So what's nice about this particular agreement is that there's only two parties that are going to be what we call off-takers of that energy. And it's split 50-50 between us and EPB, which is a local power company in Chattanooga. So what they'll do is they'll meter the total energy that that system produces, and then they'll attribute 50% to KUB and 50% to EPB. So that percentage-based approach really allows that kind of mathematical equation on the back end with a lot of certainty. You're not trying to say, oh, well, these panels are KUBs and these panels are EPBs. It's the whole system output divided by 50%.
Well, that makes it
Yep.
easy, thank you.
Yep. So again, getting into the specifics of this particular project, because this is a partnership, what we were able to benefit from is that EPB did a competitive procurement in 2023, and through that procurement identified Silicon Ranch as a qualified, competitively priced provider. Silicon Ranch has done a lot of these projects across the valley. They are based in Tennessee. They know the system. So they proposed to EPB a 66 megawatt site, of which EPB then said, hey, KUB, would you like to take 50%? The price was very competitive, so we said, yes, we do. And here we find ourselves ready to execute some of these agreements and get moving. Again, Silicon Ranch is a developer. They're going to own this thing. It'll be in western Tennessee, and it'll be interconnected to TVA. Again, that power is going to flow to them. They have fixed the price without any escalation, so it'll be a fixed price for 20 years, no change up or down. And the net annual savings to KUB customers as a result of that agreement is approximately $1.5 million. And that's, again, the difference between what we are getting from TVA through that FAPA and what we are paying to Silicon Ranch under the PPA. And that 20-year term will start upon the initial delivery date, which is expected to be in June of 2028. So you are great. You're leading me straight to the slides. So one of the pieces of the delay is that it just takes a very long time to develop these solar projects. This is not unique to this project or Tennessee. Nationally, what you see is it just takes a long time to get these projects built, procure the actual panels themselves, but really make sure that the grid is ready to accept that power in these predominantly rural communities where the solar is going. So you have to do a lot of prep work to get the site ready and to get the grid ready, and that's why these things take so long. Because of that term, we are very cognizant that our city charter limits us to a 20-year term of any contract, and it also allows for a 2-year development window. Well, in this case, 2 years is actually not long enough, believe it or not. And so what we are proposing under this agreement is to actually execute that PPA in the future. We need the assurance so that Silicon Ranch feels very confident that we are in this, we're committed, so they can go ahead and start that build-out process. But what we'll do is sign that contract in 2026 and start the clock at that point on a 2-year development term plus the 20 years. So what that allows us to do is really maximize the value to our system and for customers while also remaining respectful of those charter limitations. So you'll see in your packet is a proposed letter of agreement, which is our commitment to Silicon Ranch that we will proceed with this relationship. It references by exhibit the draft language of the power purchase agreement as well as the draft language of the TVA FAPA agreement. So we've spelled all that out. That's been the negotiations we've been working on with these entities. And what we hope for your support of today is to authorize execution of that LOI, that letter of intent. And then in June of 2026, that's when we would really execute those 2 agreements. We have, just for reference, just recently kind of got indication from TVA that they would allow us to sign the FAPA a little earlier, recognizing that it doesn't do anything until the PPA kicks in because it's really contingent on money flowing in. So we are exploring whether that would be appropriate. Again, that's all just protection of risk for KUB. We have been very intentional about making sure that we've de-risked a scenario where we owe someone else money but are not getting money in return. So we want to keep those things as best aligned as we can. But that's the reason why you see a little bit of a different contract approach there. And to that point, Commissioner Herbert, it is reflective of the time that it takes to get these things online. So the resolution that's in front of you, again, multiple things going on here, but it is authorizing the execution of the letter of intent, supporting the development of the project. It authorizes the future execution of that 20-year PPA to purchase the power that's produced by the system. It authorizes the future execution of that TVA FAPA agreement and permits, of course, our president and CEO to tweak those agreements in the best interest of our customers as we finalize those documents. And I appreciate your consideration.
Anyone have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, just want to thank you, Aaron. Since this is an LOI, I assume between now and 2026, you go to the long form agreement. Will that come before the board as well at some point, or does that get managed within the CEO ranks?
Yeah, so the long form agreement is in your packet. That is an exhibit to the LOI. And what the LOI says is that if that agreement were to substantively change or there are conditions that would throw the whole thing off, that we have some off-ramps within that LOI. But in its substantive form, it is attached as a letter of agreement to this. I will say, again, because this is really around giving the assurance to Silicon Ranch that they can take some pretty expensive initial steps. Were we to reconsider that in the future, there is a requirement we would compensate them for their work, even if we don't benefit from any electrons actually flowing. So that's what the LOI spells out. But the long form agreement is party to that LOI, and you have that in your packet for review.
Resolution, I would need request a motion and a second for Resolution 1498 on first and final reading.
So moved.
Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board on this particular resolution? Seeing none, Mr. Coley, will you please call the roll for the vote on Resolution 1498 on first and final reading?
Aye.
Commissioner Feinbaum,
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson, Commissioner Hamilton,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbert,
Aye.
Commissioner Pickett, Commissioner Simpson Brown.
Aye.
Resolution 1498 is passed on its first and final reading.
Thank you. And I'd like to recognize Gabe for the president's report.
Thank you, Chair Simpson Brown. This time of year, every year, we have an update to you on the winter gas supply and rates for the coming year. Good timing, I guess. It's the first cold day we've had this year, so I guess that's a good coincidence. And as always, Sherry Ottinger, who's done this for many, many years, is here to present that winter update to you. She's the manager of rates and analytical services and has been doing this, like I said, for a long time and knows an expert in this area. So thank you, Sherry.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. Some of the key words you just heard are every year.
in many, many years. And, so for those of you who have been on the board for a while, you have seen some version of this presentation multiple times. And for that, I do apologize. But it is a required board update. So we will walk through this together. I do want to say that our gas supply team that works on scheduling our gas, it's a fun job. They get to work the puzzle every day of how do the pieces fit together. But my part of coming in here and sharing with you the list of contracts we signed in the past year, there's just not a lot of exciting stuff about that. So we will get through it together. So what we will cover today, we will cover our natural gas purchasing requirements, that board resolution. We will also take a quick look at our price risk management policy. Both of those are required reports to the board. And then we will also take a look at the upcoming projections for winter bills. That part is not required, but traditionally we have provided it at the same time. So Resolution 1447 does govern KUB's natural gas purchasing requirements. Again, this slide is exactly the same as it was last year and the year before that. So I'm not going to belabor it. I will just give one example. If you look at the first line, it says board authority is required for contracts in excess of 6 years. Other lesser terms are delegated to the CEO or CFO to sign those. But in excess of 6 years, how often does that happen? Not very often. We have come to you, however, a couple of times in recent history for what are called prepay contracts. And similar to what Ms. Gill just described of our charter saying you cannot sign anything longer than 20 years, there is a provision for longer terms. But we did bring both of those prepay contracts to the board before we could sign those. And the reason we do those prepays and that long term, both were 30 years, is because we receive a significant discount. And so that is valuable to our customers to reduce their bills. So again, you see on here, there are various other limitations based on volumes of the transportation contracts, the storage assets. And I will just call your attention to the final bullet, which we are authorized to sell excess capacity. So why do we have excess capacity? Well, because our contracts with the pipelines are year-round. It's the same volume every month. And obviously, our customer usage is not the same. It's much greater in the winter than the summer. So occasionally, we will find an opportunity where we can do what's called a capacity release. We take advantage of that when we can, and then we return the money that we save back to our customers. That goes automatically via the purchase gas adjustment. So in fiscal year 24, we did return almost $171,000 back to our customers through capacity release. So as we move forward, we'll look first at supply contracts, then we'll move into transportation and storage. So in the past year, we have signed or allowed to roll over 8 contracts. So it's been a rather busy summer on this front. You will notice that 3 of the supplier names have an asterisk next to them, and that is to indicate that those are ones that had contract activity during the past year. One of the most important things on this chart is the column that says firm or variable. And I just wanted to point that out because obviously some of these are large volumes that you see there, but if it is a variable volume, that means that we can take up to the amount indicated there. So in the summer, for some of those contracts, we might only take 1,000 or 2,000 decatherms a day. We have the option of taking 0 on those. So Nextera is one of those that we signed this year. They do provide us supplies coming from both Tennessee Gas Pipeline and Texas Eastern Pipeline, also known as TETCO. CNX and Intervest, those are firm volumes that we take, which means we also refer to those as must take. The prepay contracts are also must take. So we are very, while we receive a lot of discount on the prepay contracts, we are cognizant of that volume because we have to take it in the summer as well. So we don't want to overcommit. So the CNX and the Intervest volumes, I will point out to you on this map, those are very strategic for us. If you see on the far right corner of the chart, you see 10,000 decatherms on that purple lateral. That is our CNX contract. Those volumes come in there. And then you see the orange line, that lateral that says 5,000, and that's where the Intervest comes in. They're strategic because they are on East Tennessee Natural Gas Pipeline, and there just are not a lot of supplies on the pipe. That is the only pipe that goes past Knoxville. So that's our only path to receiving natural gas. Also, the Saltville storage is right there in between those two. And again, that's a very strategic asset for us being on system. So along our transportation portfolio, we did allow our contract with East Tennessee Natural Gas to roll over this year. You see the date is 2030. Previously, the contract we had in place, the expiration date was 2025. On all of these contracts, we are required to give a notice 1 year in advance if we want to give up that capacity or make any significant changes. So we're always working a year ahead on that. So we did allow that one to roll over. Tennessee Gas Pipeline was also up for renewal. We made a few modifications to receipt points there, but we retained the same volume that we've had for many years. And then on TETCO, again, we are renewing that contract at the same volume that we've had for several years now. So do we have any questions on the transportation? Okay. Those are all 5-year contracts. Our largest storage account is Bear Creek, which is a production area facility in Louisiana. It is also a 5-year contract. That's why we were working ahead on it. You see the 2030 date there that we have extended through. We retained the same volume on that contract. And then Bobcat Storage is on Texas Eastern, and we renewed that contract as well. So just taking just a moment to look at storage levels as we head into winter. The LNG, the green bar, we always want that to be 100% heading into winter. That facility has physical restraints as they convert natural gas to liquid natural gas and back. So we can only inject in summer, we can only withdraw in the winter. The other 3 storage accounts, we can inject or withdraw from day to day. We have a lot of flexibility there. On Bear Creek and Saltville, we typically target 80 to 90% full heading into winter. And obviously, Mr. Bolus already alluded to the fact it's been warm. And so the end of October, the beginning of November has been very warm, so that's why you see the Saltville percentage being a little bit higher. It's really very beneficial to us to have that flexibility. So if we have no more questions on contracts, we will move on to price risk. So Resolution 1388 governs our price risk management program. Again, this is a well-established program. From the pie chart, you can see that over 50% of our purchases heading into winter are subject to market price. You will also may note that the first bullet there says that we target 25% price locks or hedges. So I did want to just highlight that because a couple of things there. One, the 25% is what we would call a very loose target. If we are at 20% on a given month, if we're at 30%, that's okay. Part of winter is the variability of weather. If we have a really cold month or a really warm month, that is going to shift that denominator and change the percentage. So it is a soft target. But you may also notice, well, gee, it's only 7% on that pie chart. So that 25% target is what we are wanting to be at more or less when we arrive at that month. So for example, the month of March, we've got 2 more price locks to execute between now and March before we get there. So when we come to the end of winter, this pie chart would look very different as to what actually happened. So it is evolving and moving every month as we move forward. And now we'll take just a quick look at prices. I know there's a lot on this chart. We do have historical prices for about 8 years here, and then where you see the dashed line, those are the market prices as we head into next winter. So for many years, we really have enjoyed being at this kind of $3 to $4 level on commodity. However, that can change, and you do see, like in the summer of 2002, that's where the green peaks are on that chart, and that happened in summer, not winter. There are a lot of influences now. Back when I started my career, if we saw a price spike, it was usually there was a hurricane in the Gulf. But now that we have supplies coming from various areas of the United States, we're not as reliant on the Gulf Coast. And then also there are other influences on the market. So power generation is a big market. Global markets, because of LNG exports, also will affect prices. So the spikes are definitely not limited to winter. But the whole reason we have a price risk management program is to try and mitigate those spikes should they occur. So the last thing I will draw your attention to on this chart is just, looking forward at that winter projection. Our current prices, the market price at NYMEX is showing about $2.70, $2.80, but sub $3 gas. That is really good news for our customers. We're quite happy about that. However, as we look at the bill projections, if you look back to last winter, you see some below $2 gas. So that is going to make our comparison when we're looking at last winter to this winter look like, oh, wow, things are up. So yes, compared to last winter, they are up, but historically, $3, below $3 is a really low price. And so with that, we will take a look at the winter bill projections. And so on the left side of the chart, we have the gas projection for residential. We also go ahead and show electric along with this presentation as we're looking at winter bills. And so for gas, you do see that we're projecting potentially a $13 increase on the monthly winter bill. And for electric, very similar, $12.40. In both of these cases, while we have had KUB rate increases, the majority of that increase is due to wholesale energy prices. So again, that NYMEX price is informing the chart on the left. For the chart on the right for electric, we have implemented the latest TVA fuel forecast into those numbers. And I always, kind of give my disclaimer, these numbers will change. The wholesale prices, both on gas and electric, will change as we get into winter, and weather is a huge driver of what happens on bills as well. So, any questions?
How does the winter forecast impact these projections?
Well, what we have done to keep that constant is we have simply used what the average winter bill was last year. Okay. So you see 69 therms is what we're using for gas, and then a little over 1,100 kWh for electric. But I will say right now, last winter was warm, a little bit warmer than normal. And what we're hearing so far this year is that with La Nina, that this winter is expected to be warm as well. So we're thinking most likely it will be comparable.
Not a question, but just a comment. I just wanted to thank you, Sherry, and tell you, you probably don't need to apologize, at least to me, because I think for the first 4 years that you did this, I asked the same question. So, the statement about you've got to hear something so many times before you finally retain it, that's definitely true of me. But thank you for the job that you do, and this is always very informative, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. No other questions? Okay. Commissioners, as you know, KUB has had a long-standing relationship with United Way. We have a huge campaign every fall to raise funds for the United Way Greater Knoxville. We just finished up our campaign this year, and I want to introduce Leslie Hartzell, our Director of Community Relations, to give you this year's update. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Gabe, and good afternoon. Like Gabe said, we just wrapped up our 2024 United Way campaign, and I'm going to share some of our campaign highlights and some of the good news with you all today. But before I go into our campaign and those highlights, I want to just give you a little bit of a background and to make up our KUB campaign. As Gabe said, KUB has had a long-standing partnership with United Way for well over 30 years, and KUB employees have been contributing. And it's truly a part of the KUB culture, and our employees look forward to our campaigns. One of the things that make our campaign unique is that 100% of the dollars raised comes through our employee giving. So because we're a not-for-profit, there's no corporate match coming from KUB, so it is truly through the efforts and the hearts of our employees. Our campaign is comprised of some fundraising events. Employees have the opportunity to go on agency visits. They also have an opportunity to do some community service work as well. As you can see pictured, Commissioners, you're well aware, this year we celebrated our 85th anniversary, and our employees had the opportunity to celebrate that milestone in addition to celebrating at our United Way celebration as well. And so we thought this was a pretty cool picture of our employees making up the 85. Our employee campaign is employee-led, just like our employee giving is, and it comes from a committee of employees who do this above and beyond their day-to-day jobs. There's a lot of work and planning that goes into our campaign, and we just want to say thank you to those employees for all that they do to ensure that our campaign goes off smoothly. So some of our campaign highlights here, and as you can see in the picture, some of our most notable is our campaign kickoff and our celebration events. We have our very own rubber duck race that we host on our KUB campus. We have a car show where employees have an opportunity to bring their sports cars, antique cars, and employees get to bid on those cars, and there's a winner within that. But also we have a silent auction, which gives them an opportunity to bid on footballs, and we had a Morgan Wallen guitar this year that was signed. So, but it's a pretty fun event, and so we try to offer a variety of ways for employees to participate in our United Way campaign. But I think what's most notable about our kickoff and celebration is truly an opportunity for our employees to get together, break bread and have some food and fellowship and just have fun while we're raising dollars to support our communities. We also allow all of our new employees and any existing employee an opportunity to go out and visit the United Way agencies. We want our employees to see the dollars that we raise, how they're impacting the community, and that the hard work these agencies do on a daily basis to support our communities as well. Not only are our employees giving financially, but they also give of their time. And we do that throughout the year, but one of the things that we've incorporated into our United Way campaign is our Fall Week of Service. This year, at our Fall Week of Service, we had 105 volunteers support 7 nonprofit organizations. I think what's even more exciting is that week alone, those 105 employees contributed 254 hours giving back to the communities in which we live and serve. We try to offer a variety of opportunities because of our diverse workforce. Not everybody can get out into the field and work in these agencies, so we do both internal and external opportunities for our employees. And I want to take a moment to thank our very own Mr. Commissioner Pickett for joining us. He came and worked alongside our employees with one of our internal opportunities, so he got to see firsthand what our employees do in ways that we give back to the community. But I also want to say to each and every one of you all, you are more than welcome to join us at any time in our community outreach efforts. I love our United Way slogan, small acts, big impacts. I truly feel like that represents our campaign and who we are and what we do. The dollars that we're raising, that they are making a difference in the communities in which we serve. This year, our campaign raised well over $193,000, and that's to be commended, and that's truly 100% employee given. Since the early 2000s, I think this is even more compelling, is that since the early 2000s that we know our employees have given more than $4 million back into the community. So that speaks volumes to KUB and the heart of our employees and the organization as a whole. One of our core values is truly giving back to the communities in which we live and serve, and we feel like our United Way campaign It's just another way that we can support not only the mission and the service and the commitment every day that our employees have to the community. Mine was short and sweet, but hopefully, hopefully great news to you all, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. I want to introduce Tiffany Martin, our Chief Customer Officer, to notify you about a new award we got from the APPA, American Public Power Association, on our customer satisfaction survey. This is the first time we've ever participated in this survey, so some good news from that. So, Tiffany?
Thank you, Gabe, and good afternoon, Commissioners. And I hopefully you'll enjoy my presentation as well. Erin's had fun things, and Sherry's talked about things she's talked about in the past. This is new information, but I think helpful and good information, so hopefully you will enjoy this presentation as well. As you all know, our goal is to provide exceptional customer service to all of our customers, and we do that through a variety of ways, but really at its core, it's about providing professional, positive, and resolution-focused interactions with our customers. So we know it's important to them that when they call us or when they need us, that we're focused on really solving the problem that they have. More recently, we've been focused on making sure that when customers give us a call, that their call is answered in less than 90 seconds. And so you guys have seen our progress in that area, and so we're proud of that. While at the same time, we have focused really heavily on making sure that those quality of calls continue. So it's not just we're quickly answering, but we're quickly answering and providing high quality service. And so now it's time to turn our attention to really asking customers for their direct feedback. We've done that in the past, and now we're ready to renew doing those outreach surveys to get feedback from customers. So most recently, we did participate in a survey where we partnered with the American Public Power Association and Great Blue Research. Through that partnership, we were able to distribute surveys and ask for feedback from 10,000 of our residential electric customers. And so we distributed that survey in a variety of ways because we ultimately wanted to make sure we touched customers where they are. So we sent emails. We also mailed postcards for those customers that haven't provided us emails. We handed out handouts in our customer service centers when customers were in the centers interacting with us. And then we also hung door hangers when our customer support staff was out in the field assisting customers. So our intent was to make sure we heard voices from a lot of different customers. So we did have over 500 customers participate in that survey, and they gave us some very helpful feedback. One of the things in the survey that was measured is there was a section that was really talking about specific organizational attributes or factors. And so those factors included how we communicate with our customers, what our electric service reliability feels like to the customer, when an outage occurs, how quickly we respond and restore services to a customer, whether we provide innovative products and services, and what the value of our service is in comparison to the rates that we charge for those services, and obviously an overall customer satisfaction rating. And so I'm happy to announce that with this survey, we found that customers most notably appreciated us for how we communicate with them, how reliable our services are, and as well as how we restore services in a timely manner. And if you'll notice here on the chart, we were compared against other national utilities, and we score high in all of those categories. So I think we're proud to always benchmark ourselves against others and see that we are doing a good job when it comes to serving our customers, because that's what we're here for. And so we were very pleased to see this. In addition, the survey did also ask questions about recent interactions with customer service representatives over the phone and in our offices, as well as for our field customer support staff. And we received high ratings there as well. So for our customer service staff, 85.5% of those customers felt satisfied with that experience. So you'll see that with the dark blue and the red slivers of these charts here. And so obviously we want that to be 100%. We know that there are scenarios where customers aren't always happy with what we say. So our goal is to continue to increase this percentage, but we feel good about what we heard and saw from these responses. And then for those interactions with our customer support staff, 88% of those customers said they were satisfied with that interaction. So definitely things to be proud of, but still work to continue to focus on as well. One other really neat insight I felt like that we learned from this survey is that many of our customers are unaware of the ownership of KUB. So many of them don't recognize that we are our community public-owned utility. And so that was very insightful to me, because what we learned in some of our focus group with our fiber customer participants is that customers think more favorably of their utility provider if they know that they are community and public-owned. And so we know that we are going to have some work to do to make sure that customers get that message, because as you can see from this chart here, those darker shaded blue areas is either that customer was unaware of our ownership or thought that we were privately or investor owned. And so we want to make sure that we get the correct message out in the community that we are here as community partners, and we're here to enhance the lives of our customers as well as the greater community. I think that's reflected in some of our presentations already today, but I think we will need to really focus on being very intentional with that message for our customers moving forward to ensure that they understand who we are. Now, as part of participating in this survey, as Gabe mentioned, we had the opportunity to be considered for a Customer Satisfaction Award through a PPA, and we did in fact get recognized, and we were awarded a bronze level award. So this was our first go at this. And we received that bronze level because we, on average, for all of the responses, the overall average was 81.8%. And so any of the power companies that participated in this, anyone with 80% or higher did get recognized. There were 2 utilities that were recognized in that gold level, and so obviously we're always striving to be there, so we wish we were amongst them, and we will definitely do this again, strive to get there with that group of folks. But understanding what we're hearing from our customers will definitely influence future initiatives and things that we plan to do moving forward. So with that being said, obviously we're tipping our toe back into surveys. Right now we're evaluating survey tools and solutions to ask for post-interaction feedback from customers. We feel like with that type of survey tool, we'll be able to know immediately after a transaction whether a customer was satisfied, and then we can really better understand what actionable things we can do to continue to improve customer satisfaction. So we're looking forward to implementing a solution to help us gather that feedback. We also are continuing to focus on outage restoration times. We just recently deployed some enhancements to our proactive electric outage notifications, and we will begin promoting that more to our customers next year. And we look forward to seeing the impact that that has on customers' experiences during outage events, because we know that's a big part of when they think about us, as when things aren't there. And so we want those experiences to be positive as well. And then I've already mentioned really starting to think about what our strategy is around making sure customers know that we are a local public utility here to assist them, and that we're their friends and neighbors. We're not here to make profits for stakeholders, but we're shareholders, but we're really here to serve the greater community. And of course, we've received a lot of feedback on how well we communicate with customers, and that will definitely continue. We're always looking for ways to make sure that we're getting out the right messages and making sure customers know how we're going to impact them. They know about programs and services that can help them, and they also know ways to save, and so we will continue to focus on that as well. So I'm really proud of the work. I have the award here if you all would like to see it this afternoon. But just really want to take this time to thank all the employees, because we don't win awards without the employees and the work that they do. And so this is not just reflective of our customer service professionals, but them as well as so many other people at KUB. So just want to say thank you on my behalf and the rest of senior staff. We appreciate them, and we're proud that we're able to win these awards because of their hard work.
Tiffany, are any of our comparable utilities, do we have access to what their scores were and how we compare to them?
So we don't get the raw data for each of those survey participants, but we do get a list of who participated. In this particular survey, it was nationwide, so a lot of them were in other parts of the country. So the two gold winners, one was in Michigan and one was in Massachusetts. But I think as we build on our surveying tools, we will likely get back to being able to compare ourselves to some of our peers in TVA's region as well. Are there any other questions?
I want to say this is probably this is my last year on the board, sadly, and so when I remember very vividly talking to Mintha at my interview, and one of the things, and I forget what the question was, but before I had the interview, did some research. Obviously, when you go for an interview, you do research on your who you're interviewing before. And one of the things I noticed was that the Google rating for KUB was 1.6 or 1.5, something like that, 7 years ago. And I just did, I was listening, but I just did another little search. And it's like 4.5, 4.0, 5. That kudos. And it also goes hand in hand with what's happening with the community outreach that's from the presentation that you just did, Leslie, with the United Way, $4.1 million. That's something. So the perception over 7 years has changed of KUB. So that's kudos for leadership and for all the people that are working and putting in hard work here. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Appreciate those kind words, and yeah, we work really hard at that, and we'll continue to get better every day. Go click for me on my slides. You pass it down, okay. So you can click, there's only 2 slides. Get to fit the finisher today. So we did get got 2 more national awards in the last month. This is from the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, or we call it AMWA. They evaluated us on 2 things, and this is a neat one because we, once again, never have gotten this award before. We got the Environmental Justice and Equity Award, the only winner this year in that category nationally. It recognizes what we do for the community, environment, social justice, but also keeping high quality and safe water. So it's a combination of those things that we do, and you see the programs there below, many of which you support and or authorized us to do in years past. And so that was a neat deal, and our Vice President of Engineering, Kurt Stafford, accepted that award on our behalf. So that was a neat award, and a very, I won't say I have a favorite award or not favorite award, but getting awards like this mean more because of the criteria they put in front of you. Very nice recognition there. And then we also got one for sustainable water utility management. And that's just talking about what we're doing to use innovation to make our water system stronger. So you see the numbers, we're reducing our water main breaks, our sanitary sewer overflows, because we're putting in new technology and we're also replacing pipes and making our system tighter and stronger every day. And so that just speaks to the technical knowledge and the abilities of our folks, and then your ability to let us fund those programs and have those Century 2 programs to make this system even better. So 2 very big national awards, very proud of the water and wastewater side of our business as we see. So thanks to the employees. Like I said, once again, it's easy to say these things, but it takes 1,250 employees at KUB to do these things and make it really worthwhile. So appreciate that. As we keep advancing the next technology and the next endeavor, we'll make you all aware and keep moving forward this utility. So that's really awesome stuff we got there. So appreciate that a lot. And then I'll finish up by saying in your packets today, you have our annual report. We just finished that up, all the financials. So Mark wants you to read it thoroughly from front to back. And then the ESG reports in there also. Both those have come out at the same time. Talks about all of our programs we do. Yes, you are pictured in one or two, both those. So your picture's in there also. So we added that this year. No, just want to make you all aware that it's the ESG report's really neat because it just talks about a lot of programs that people don't see or behind the KUB wall sometimes. And so please look over those. If you have any questions, let me know personally or my staff. And then last thing I want to update you on, we just hit a milestone literally this last couple weeks. We have just passed our 500,000th customer, which is a big jump considering what the addition of fiber plus just the growth in Knoxville. And we've gone up in a hurry. So we just found that out this last week or so. It's a big milestone, so we'll update our literature to say that. But over 500,000 customers across 5 utilities in 7 counties and all that is what we're up to now. And so a neat milestone. We'll probably put that in social media here in the next few days to kind of recognize that with our 85th anniversary. And so that's a neat milestone that, like I said, it's gone fast and it will continue to go fast. So appreciate that and looking forward to continuing to grow in this Knoxville area as it expands. That's all I have. Simpson Brown, Chair, thank you very much.
The board today. Well, following the adjournment of this meeting, the board will have a lunch session that is open for the public to observe. This meeting is adjourned.